Today we've come to visit Raixa. Raixa is a stately home similar to the one you might have in the National Trust in the UK, and it's somewhere we've never actually visited before. But looking at the pictures, they seem to have beautiful gardens and a rather impressive house to have a look around. So let's go and see what they have. So I did look it up first of all on the internet, and it said that due to the current restrictions you needed to make an appointment. So I sent off an email and said, can we come on Saturday morning? And very efficiently they wrote back the next day and told us that we had an appointment for 10:30 in the morning for us to come to Raixa to have a look around. There we've got the house and some of the gardens, the orange trees. We'll follow the visitor's path. It's a little bit uneven actually, in fact it's very uneven. So
you might fall over, be careful.
Anita's looking after me. We're heading towards what looks like an elevated walkway. Got some vines.
Maybe buy some wine here.
Grapes are just starting on their tiny little beginnings of grapes. And on the other side, got some trees. Not sure what they are.
We just want a photograph.
And we're just at the foot of the Tramontana Mountains, so it's set in this beautiful position. We're just heading off now towards the house. And the road is still very uneven. So this is now owned by the government here. There's already groups here on, is it pond? Some beautiful water lilies and frogs. Lots of frogs we've seen here already.
Els paperets no viuen aquí, els paperets viuen per les muntanyes, els gorgs, les muntanyes, les escletxes més profundes. És molt difícil, són superfícies. Tenim aquestes pilastres, amb aquesta carassa, també els agradava molt tot el relacionat amb el misteri. Què és això? Què és aquesta carassa? Què penseu vosaltres que representa aquesta carassa? Exacte, n'hi ha tres per a la central i a dalt també hi ha una altra. Ara ens veurem a les cases de la
Interesting looking water feature there. And so we're not the first visitors, there's a group here having a guided tour. Needed to book a group, I think, to get the guided tour. I'm guessing this is the cardinal. Looks like a cardinal, doesn't he? So from what I've been reading about the history of this, it dates back a long time to the 1200s and before, when the Islamic people were here. And then when Jaime I of Aragon came in 1229, then he obviously took over the island, and it ended up in the hands of the Count of Ampurias. And various things in the grounds and in the house itself date back to maybe the 16th century, and maybe even a little bit earlier. But some of the history comes from the first Count of Montenegro, who was Ramon Despuig, and he purchased Raixa in 1660. The brothers Joan and Antoni Despuig took it over, and it's Antoni who became the cardinal. So that's who I'm guessing this is. I can't see anything that tells us that, but I'm guessing it's Antoni. And he was responsible for a number of excavations in Rome, and he must have found some Roman artifacts, and he brought them back to the house here in Raixa. They're no longer here, they've been moved to Belver, so on a visit to Belver Castle, they'll have a little bit more meaning when we see the Roman sculptures that are there. There's actually a lot of them there, so we need to go back to Belver Castle and appreciate that a little bit more. So we parked the car over there in the distance, and that's the orange grove that we just walked through. It all looks very well maintained, and fantastic views over Palma. So the place is run now by the government, so they're all employees from the government who are looking after the place and who are giving the guided tours. We'll head off towards this magnificent looking house. A rather impressive entrance. And the obligatory sundial. Rather large doors. This is our first room that we've come into in the house. Just about the first thing you see is the toilet. I don't think we'll be using that one. It seems to be very nicely laid out with explanations in Catalan, in Spanish, in English and in German, and some photographs to accompany the explanations. So here are the sculptures that I was talking about before that were excavated by the Cardinal from Rome, brought here, and you can see from the pictures here there are a lot of them. They're now in Belver Castle. So we're just entering the games room. some ancient history going back millions of years, explaining the geology of the area. We'll move on through the games room. And this is interesting to me because here we do have some geology, and we can look at some of the rocks. One of the interesting things about properties like this is the necessity of water, and being placed in the mountains gives it a good position to extract water from the local streams. We have examples here of dry stone walling, which is still an art here in Mallorca, and the typical sorts of tools that they use.
How nice this is in the garden.
We're going to go up some steps. Just before we go up the steps, along this gallery, which has magnificent views over the orange groves that we're looking at, and some very pretty gardens down below. Take a slow walk along here. A few more visitors arriving now. I bet the original owners wouldn't be happy about the view there. We actually overlook Son Reyes. Son Reyes is the recycling centre here in Mallorca where the rubbish goes. And that's right in the view before you can see Palma. On another occasion, we might do a trip to Son Reyes. Looking up, you can see the wooden beams. And the Doric columns supporting the arches. So now we will go up the winding staircase. Today actually is Saturday, and there are some things organised for children today. So I can see outside that there are some groups already here waiting for whatever event has been organised for the children. So here we're now looking at some of the bedrooms, and then a little bit of the natural history of the area on some of the displays. A gecko projected on the wall. Looks as though we should be looking at something here, but there is no display. And the room set out with a projector. Nothing showing today though. And yet another long balcony. So looking from a higher position than the one we were looking at from below, we can look down into the garden. pleasant views over the plains of central Mallorca. So we've got what looks like a long corridor, but it's actually leading into some other rooms. And this room has a fireplace. I think there are lots of displays that are supposed to be here that are not on display at the moment. So we may have to come back. Typical sort of windows. We have windows like this in our house. Very old.
Yeah, look, we don't even fit it. It's like, oh, it's double glazed actually.
It's a much brighter room. Sun's streaming in through that window, and then that window looks totally out of place, but gives us a great view of down below where the children are gathering to see the performer do his puppet show. So Anita this week was talking to her children about Punch and Judy, and because it's an international school, most children have never heard of Punch and Judy. Here we've got a Spanish Mallorquin group giving a puppet show to the assembled children down below. Brings back fond memories of going to places like Rhyl and watching Punch and Judy on the beach. Back inside the house, here we've got some of the brickwork which has been exposed. And it looks to me as though there's been a bit of repair work done here. We've got a nice stone arch here, but then we've got some big stones which have been put in place within the arch. That doesn't look very original. The Tramontana, the mountain range which we've been pointing out, is actually a UNESCO heritage site because of its natural beauty. And people ask me about what's the weather like here in the winter. Here you go. We do have snow here in the winter every year. It does get very cold. And I guess houses like this suffer from heating issues. It's a dinner set, dear. Is this the sort of dinner set you wanted to get?
Not quite.
And into the dining room with what looks to be a very modern looking fire. Wooden panelling. And the all-important decanters. Is a very typical set of Mallorquin crockery. This brown earthenware, plates, bowls, cups, jugs,
Wooden cutlery.
and wooden implements to eat from. One of the things we used to teach the scouts was how to make a spoon or a fork. And this is the typical Mallorquin material. You'll see this pattern everywhere in Mallorca, and there's the typical colour. It's typically blue, but nowadays, in recent times, they've started to do it in all sorts of different colours. And into the kitchen. The log-fired cooker. And a huge sink. And a serving hatch to the dining room. Oh, there's a colander. I've never seen one like that before. The bowls you can see up here on the top shelf, very typical Mallorquin. We use them a lot for cooking and serving food. I need to tell you they've got a name. I'm not sure what that name is. I know some friends of ours take them back when they buy them here, because you can't buy them anywhere else in Europe. And part of the reason for that is because of the materials they're made from. And the glaze that is used doesn't meet with European standards. So maybe the more modern ones do, but certainly the older ones did not. And some of the bigger ones have got wire around them, just in case they break. You actually put these directly onto the fire, or onto your gas stove, and you cook with them. But obviously if you're cooking your meal, it'd be a bit of a disaster if it actually broke, and so they've got these wire mesh around them to hold them in place. So this is actually the servants' dining quarters. The staircase here takes you down to the courtyard where the children are watching their puppet show. I just noticed on the wall here, it says November 1731, I think it reads. This is one of the more famous views of Raixa. This wonderful staircase and terraced gardens right up to the top there. Some Ionic columns. Lions guarding the way up. Apollo there, overlooking the staircase, which is dedicated to Apollo, and the 4 stone statues on the way up. So we'll move on from the Apollo staircase and follow the visiting signs into the gardens. Some magnificent trees, a little avenue here to walk through. Little stone seats either side where we could take a little rest if required. As it goes that way, we'll just go to the end just to have a look at the rest of this level. Imagine families living here had wonderful times on these terraces. Now we've got a few steps to negotiate. There's actually going to be a lot more steps to come. Water, I keep saying, is really important, and here is another gargoyle of sorts where water should be coming down there. There's no water in here, it's very dry. This is a little collection for water which would be used by the gardeners. Today is actually May the 22nd, so just to give you a little bit of idea of what it's like at this particular time of year. And I keep talking about water. Here's a channel that's been made to guide the water and take it down to the different places where it's needed. Something they probably learnt from the Romans, who were experts at channeling the water. So the staircase here gets a little bit rougher and really quite high steps. So these have been cut out of the stone hillside. More statues, more water. And more frogs. Little fish in there too.
Tadpoles, are they?
Tadpoles.
Hasn't got a head.
We're heading up a little bit. A very modern building and a very old building. Some of the buildings here are follies. Coming from Stoke-on-Trent, we have a famous folly called Mallorca. Looks like a castle, it's referred to as Mallorca Castle, but it was never really a castle. It was built by some wealthy landowner who thought it might be good to have a ruin of a castle on his property, and that's what happens here too. They're built to look like ruins. Some of the wood has been burnt off here. We're just looking down towards the house now, so not been going very long, but we're already well above the house, which has a bell tower, no, a little bell tower. And here we are, gazing up at Apollo. Columns here are Ionic, for those of you who are interested. Quite cool how the water gives rise to the beard going into the font. Now just moving on from the Apollo staircase, so we're near the top of the Apollo staircase now, looking down towards the house, and we follow Anita, just making our way up through the path. Again, it is a bit rough, so any of you are coming, you need to bear that in mind. Negotiating this, it is a bit tricky. Just to emphasise the importance of water. It's not a swimming pool. I suppose you could use it as a swimming pool. This is water that's been stored for the gardens. Just watching the shadow of the dragonfly. Quite a large pond storing the water. There's an overflow. It's about a foot short of being full. There was a big tree here which has been cut down, and some of the stumps put down here just to guard the path. A beautiful path along here that just takes us above what is an enormous pool. I believe this is one of the largest, if not the largest, in the whole of Mallorca. We'll take a walk down and have a closer look at it. I'm just going to turn the camera off as I walk down.
Concentrate on the step.
So here we are at the bottom.
Oh, big fish. Oh, come here quick.
Just looking into this pool. There are some huge fish.
Leanna's like these. Look at this white one here.
The pool in total is some 80 metres or so end to end, and in places it's 7 metres more deep. So you can imagine the families that lived here, this would provide them with freshwater fish. It would provide them with water for the house. And you could even use it for swimming in if you needed to. So we can pass through these lovely gates here, iron gates, and take us by the side of the water. Nice white fish in there. We're joined again by another mayfly. There's lots of them here. And the obligatory life preserver.
Dragonfly. Landed on the wall down there.
So come back to the central part, just walk down the other side of the pond. It is quite warm today, so it's nice to be able to walk in some of the more shaded areas. Anita brings her parasol with her, just in case. Sure what this is. It does actually have a fireplace.
It needs a new roof.
And it does have an upper floor. I don't think we're going to go up there. Going up a few more steps now. I'll turn the video off. Puff and puff. This little bit of the walk does actually look like a bit of a challenge. Apologies if you're listening to me breathe. It's actually quite a long walk up here. And there's some more water channeling to take the water to different parts. That's obviously more modern, but based probably on something that was there before.
Can you manage this?
Oh. I think I can manage. The children are obviously having a good time down below. You can hear them enjoying their puppet show.
There's a bar at the top.
No, but there's a magnificent view. A few more people are arriving. We did book to come here, but I'm not sure it was necessary now. I think maybe some people just turn up. And there is lots of space here. We love our caves. With our stalagmites and stalactites. It is a bit dark in here. This is obviously a reconstruction out of the side of the hill, but with real stalagmites and stalactites that have come from caves, probably very close by. Just a little bit further now, we get to first of the viewpoints. And the views are truly spectacular. We have the Tramontana mountain range behind us, and Palma and the plains of Mallorca in front, right over to Randa in the distance. Some beautiful stained glass windows. One of which has been removed. Well, there are higher points that you can go to, but not today. We are restricted on where we can go. We've got a no entry sign that would take us up on a path that would take us up higher to where I believe the chapel is, and an even higher viewpoint. But we're going to make our way down now, and if there's anything of interest I'll start the video again. But for the time being, we're just going to switch off for a while. So this is actually the Sonreus recycling plant, which is right in our view from Raixa, looking down towards Palma. But this is where the rubbish from Palma ends up, and it either gets recycled or it gets incinerated. It did have excess capacity, and at one time they were actually importing rubbish, much to the annoyance of the islanders. As you can imagine, we don't want to be importing other people's rubbish. The view now over Palma and over the central plains of Mallorca. And then down towards the house of Raixa. So we have safely negotiated our way down. I'm just going to have a little look around here. I'm back down by the house now. Using the power of the water to dry the milk. A nice little explanation of how it all worked, using the water to turn the grindstone. Oh, more climbing.
This is more.
though this is where the grain would be. Ooh. More big steps.
On forever.
A lovely stone arch. And this takes us back to the pool, isn't it?
I don't know.
Modern water pumps there. A very modern helicopter up above. And there we are back to the big pool. 17 metres wide, 83 metres long, and up to 7.5 metres deep. Some huge fish. We're going to make our way back to the house now, down the steps. We're down a few more steps. It's a bit dark down here. Nice handrail for me to hold on to. A bit of a warning sign down there. It's looking quite dark. Just hope the camera can cope with the light.
I think that's the kitchen up there. The olive oil mill.
And we've seen these before when we were in Alfabia, was that right? And we certainly see them at Galazzo. It's an important part of Mallorca. It's where they bring the olives and they make the olive oil. So this is an olive mill. And a nice pair of doors here. What have we got on the other side? Looks like a feeding area for the animals. Through the doors we've got this sloping stairway down, made typically just after little stones, held with some rather large beams. Stairway off to the side. Now we're down into the courtyard where earlier we saw the children being entertained by the puppeteers. A water fountain. Questionnaire for us to fill in. Anita likes to fill in questionnaires, so I'll just switch the video off while we do that. Okay, so we just left our questionnaire. We're now just going to head into the monumental garden down below, getting more steps. Very big steps. the different garden areas down here. We'll have a look because we like looking at the plants. Lots of wild looking flowers to me. Where they're trying to grow traditional plants that you normally find here in Mallorca.
I think actually they'd have beehives here, wouldn't you, as well? It's compost.
Compost boxes. So we've been laying a little bit of a cement pathway there. We've just been walking on. This is the garden we were looking down at the beginning. Beautifully kept. Nice colour. Different greens. Together with the pinks and the oranges. Going on to mauves and purples. And this gives us a lovely vantage point to take a look back at the house itself, which is quite magnificent. Well, we've had a lovely visit of Raixa. We're really glad that we came. It's a place we've never been to before. I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and if you have, then please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, you should subscribe. And we are looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.
Yes, I can thoroughly recommend it, but you need to wear comfortable walking shoes.
And bring some water.
Bye for now.
And please share it with your friends so everybody can have a look at Raixa. Bye.